In this session, we will try to uncover messaging systems concepts. In the enterprise integration styles, we have discussed various options of connecting applications with one another, which includes messaging. Messaging makes the applications loosely coupled by communicating asynchronously, and which also makes the communication more reliable because the two applications do not need to be running at the same time. Messaging makes the messaging system responsible for transferring the data, and the applications do not really worry so much about how to send the data, but focus on what's data that it need to share with the other application. Like most technologies, messaging involves certain concepts. The first concept is channels. Channels in a messaging system is like a virtual pipe which is connected uh, which is connected between the sender and the receiver, and this channel is responsible for sending the message data from the sender's application or computer to the receiver's application or computer. When we install a messaging system, these channels will not be available uh, by default out of the box. It's the developer's responsibility to decide what channels would be needed for their integration to send the data between the sender and the receiver. And the next concept is a message. Message is an atomic packet of data which a sender application intends to send the data to the receiver, and it has to uh, divide the data into small packets, wrap it as a message, and send it over a channel so the receiver will receive it. The next concept is multi-step delivery. Uh, in the simplest form, a sender will send a message to a receiver, but in real time, there might be some additional steps that might be needed between the sender and the receiver. For example, if the sender is sending a message and there should be some filter in between, or transformation is required, or any format change is required, and receiver is expecting in a different format than the sender is sending, then those kind of steps are executed between the sender and receiver by different application components, which we will dig more deeper in the coming sessions. But generally, we call them as pipes and filters. The next concept is routing. In large enterprises, we will see numerous applications connecting with numerous different channels, sending messages uh, to different various applications. So, how a sender and the intended receiver will make sure that the right data is received. That is uh, based on routing. So routing is an intermediate step where it will create pipes and filters in between the sender and receiver in a large enterprise. And at times, one sender has to send the data to different multiple receivers. So routing is a messaging concept which will be responsible for routing the messages to the right destinations and to the right channels and to the right receivers. And sometimes the original sender might not even know which channel will take that message to the final receiver, and at times the sender even doesn't know who is the destination or the message consumer, what that sender is sending. And the next concept is transformation. Like we discussed before, if the sender is sending a message and it's in a format, say for example X, and the receiver has to receive the message not in the format what sender sends, but maybe in a different format, let's say Y, then we should have some additional messaging components between the sender and the receiver, which will transform the X message to a Y message and send it to the receiver. This will make sure that the sender and receiver are decoupled, and also they are not uh, overburdened by transforming the message. For example, one sender is having multiple receivers. One receiver expects it in Y format, and some receiver expects in Z format, and some receiver expects in W format. Then sender cannot transform each and every message for different receivers and send it over. Instead, there will be intermediate components which will be taking care of transformation, and this way the sender can only focus on sending the data in X format, and the translators can take care of whatever transformation is required in between the sender and the receiver. And the next concept is endpoints. Endpoints, uh, like we discussed before, sender application do not need to know how to integrate with the messaging system. Likewise, the receiver also do not need to know how to integrate with the messaging system to receive the data. Instead, there will be some bridged code, or maybe we can call it as integration code, which will apparently know how a sender application works, and how a receiver application works, and how a messaging system works. And this integration code is responsible for connecting the sender and the messaging system, and likewise the messaging system and the receiver, so that the integration will become seamless. And here in this simplest diagram, this is how a sender will send a message to a receiver, and the message will look like this. It will have a header and it will have a body of a message, and header of the message is metadata, which is usually used by the messaging system, which includes what is the origin of that message and what is the destination of that message, and other necessary filter information which is needed for the messaging system to route that message to the right receiver. And body is usually ignored by the messaging system. Body is something which sender sends, and it is transferred or transmitted to the receiver as is without altering anything in the messaging system. And the receiver doesn't really focus on the header of the message, but it usually needs the data which is inside the body of the message for it to extract and process it further. But the sender and receiver, like we discussed, will not directly be connected. It needs a messaging system, something like this, which is installed separately in an enterprise. And we will discuss different messaging systems vendors available maybe in the coming sessions. But a messaging system will look like this, which will have the channels like this. And these channels will not come right out of the box when we install this messaging system. It's like I said, it's the developer's responsibility who is trying to integrate the sender application and the receiver application, what kind of data they wanted to transmit between these two applications, and what kind of channel it might need. And this is a virtual pipe which will be connected from the messaging system to the sender application, and on the other side, it is connected to the receiver application. I would stop here and maybe dig more deeper into this messaging concepts in the coming sessions.